What's up, everybody? This is a Force of Nature, Spiritual Awakening, and today we will be discussing Pluto in the fourth house in the natal birth chart. So, now this was a request from somebody, and somebody wanted me to analyze this, and I'm doing it today. So, this is the request, and I'm honoring that request today. So, let's get off into this. What is Pluto and what is Pluto all about? So we already know that Pluto is linked to Scorpio and it does rule over the eighth house in the natal birth chart. So Pluto has to deal with death, rebirth, transformation, taboo, secrets, lies, betrayal, deceit, deception. Okay, but Pluto is also a destroyer. So Pluto is here to tear things down, build them back up, and tear them down again. It's going to turn into something that is completely different, something completely brand new. Okay, it does deal with crisis and crisis situations, okay, when you're dealing with Pluto. But as far as taboo and taboo topics, so it does have to do with astrology, numerology, alchemy, and sex. Okay, this is what the eighth house is about. Okay, it's about pulling back layers, diving deep, uncovering secrets, betrayal, or whatever the case may be when you're dealing with this particular house. It also has to deal with inheritance and other people's money, finances, and also taxes and also loans, as I think I just said. Okay, so now the fourth house. The fourth house in the natal birth chart is linked to Cancer, and the ruling planet of Cancer is the moon. So the fourth house has to do with early childhood and early childhood upbringing. It also deals with the physical home that you grew up in. It represents your mother and the way that she cared for you, the way that she nurtured you, the way that you perceived her to have cared for you and nurtured you early on in childhood. It shows you the domestic life and things that went on and took place early on in life and childhood. Okay, it actually does show you the physical home along with your ancestors. It is linked to your past life. So we're going to get into this today. Pluto in the fourth house, men and women. Okay, and the key facts to this aspect is um, on your life and your personality. Okay, so this placement of Pluto encourages people to strive to create a safe environment for themselves and loved ones and to care a lot about their image. Okay, so now their challenges is going to be secretive, vain, and controlling, and their strengths is being mature, pragmatic, and determined. Okay, and the advice for these men and women will be they should refrain from hiding behind others' wishes. So now Pluto in the fourth house, men and women, is responsible for new beginnings, fresh starts, the rebirth from chaos and destruction. More so ever, it has to do with one search for an identity and finding a refuge at home. The family environment will recharge their batteries and prepare them for what's coming next, instill in them fresh powers, intensity, and also passion. There will be a conflict in this seemingly peaceful and harmonious place, often between the Pluto in the fourth house person and a dominative power figure that seeks to impose their will onto them. This creates even more emotional turmoil and psychological trauma that will affect their future development. Okay, so this is what's going on so far with this placement. Okay, these men and women are going to have people pushing views onto them, expectations onto them. All right, this is not an easy aspect. It's not an easy placement to have if you do have it. Okay, because this does indicate that the child did not feel completely safe in the home. They did not feel like they were being loved in the home, nurtured in the right kind of way. A lot of things went on and took place in these men and women lives, and it really is a struggle, and they bring it into the adulthood. So Pluto in the first house represents someone who was born in a family where feeling safe was somewhat impaired. Sometimes the conditions of the childhood were quite dangerous or abusive, but sometimes it it's much more subtle than that. So what went on and took place with them? These men and women could have been in an abusive family dynamic. They could have been verbally abused. They could have been spiritually abused, emotionally abused, or physically abused. This is what could have happened to them, okay? And it really fucked with them on a psychological level. It fucked with their psyche, okay? And it altered these men and women's minds to be geared to think and move a different kind of way than what they may have already was going to go in. It's just what it is. All right, so moving along. So, but sometimes it's much more subtle than that. Something in the family and childhood could have happened which represented a shock to the child, something which disrupted the feeling of being safe and loved in home. Often we find people who are born in families where the dynamic was more based on control and even power. And it's possible they had to assume the position of a scapegoat or the black sheep. So these men and women could have felt like they were the black sheep in the family. Could have felt like their family wasn't their family. They could have felt like they wasn't because they damn sure wasn't acting like it in some shape or form. Okay, their brothers and sisters could have been very different from them. Their cousins could have been very different from them. All right, it's something about these men and women that was very unique, very interesting, and very different. They wasn't like everybody else in the group, in the family. Okay, so now it isn't always dramatic. I don't know why I'm fumbling over fucking words, but anyway, it isn't always dramatic, although it can be, but overall, the main energy of the position of Pluto is that which should have felt as a safe, controlling, comforting environment where more so a source of anxiety and intense feelings built up. So over time, these men and women can build up a lot of intense feelings. Even anxiety can even pop up with these men and women because of things that went on and took place early on in childhood. Okay, so with this placement, what it does say that if Pluto is positively aspected, then these men and women are going to be powerful, empowered, and things like that is going to go on and take place with them. Okay, it will have a little bit of a different effect. All right, not that these men and women are not going to be empowered or powerful, even if it's negatively aspected. Okay, but they're going to be feeling more towards it if it's positively aspected. So, with this position of Pluto, we find people who compulsively seek a feeling of nurturance, love, and safety. But often, the more they seek it in others, the more they find themselves feeling unsafe and unprotected. Pluto represents our personal power as well. And as much as the person is not keen on doing so, the power of this position of Pluto is to learn how to develop emotional um, resilience, counting on yourself, being your own safe place, being your own nurturer. So what happens is because they didn't get the love that they were seeking out early on in life, they are now being geared towards nurturing themselves, loving themselves, doing for themselves. Okay, this is what they may resort to doing because other people are not showing up in that kind of way, or they're not presenting it to the fucking table that fucking way. All right, and this makes these men and women aggravated and agitated and fucking mad because people don't know how to fucking stand up and know how to embrace fucking love, show them fucking love the way that they're supposed to be getting fucking love. This is something else, and this is not an easy placement to have neither. So now, the more someone with this position learns how to become their own powerhouse, the more love they have to give. and the more space they have to receive a love which feels nurturing, safe, and kind. As well, the more the person focuses on developing emotional autonomy, the more close relationships and relationships with family can become a source of fulfillment and power. So it is very much likely that the childhood conditions and type of nurturance push the person to believe that emotional manipulation was the way to obtain love. As I said before, we often find family dynamics based on power struggles and control. It doesn't have to be malicious, more so a learned way of dealing with emotions. For example, often with this aspect, we find a household where withholding love, passive aggression, subtle remarks, and um, people just result into manipulative displays of emotions. This is what these men and women have seen in their lifetime. Okay, instead of people being live and direct, instead of people just being very much blunt, people were doing things in a different kind of way, in a strategic kind of way. Okay, and it wasn't straight through. It was just maybe smart ass remarks. Okay, being very fucking sarcastic in the household, what was going on with these men and women. But you know what happens anytime you see that growing up? Anytime you see something like that growing up, this is what these children will grow up to start doing as adults. Come on, this is what happens. All right, so this could have been the main way of dealing with each other. There can also be codependency, enmeshment, and an overall toxic use of emotions. Looking into what a healthy relationship looks like can be extremely helpful and very useful for these men and women once they become adults. Okay, this is a tricky aspect, and I'm going to go just a little bit further into this so we can fully understand and grasp what's going on here. Okay, because this is very difficult. Okay, so here we go. So Pluto in the fourth house, and you're home as an adult. Until you resolve your painful relationship with your family, you are not truly free. Pluto in the fourth house, men and women can potentially become domineering and controlling themselves as adults. Of course, easy aspects to Pluto indicate an easier expression of this planet in your life. Some people choose to face their problems and become more evolved, and the whole thing jumped. Sorry. Right. So now, yes, like I said, face their problems and become more evolved in their process, protecting others from going through what they experience. However, hard aspects can indicate a bully. People with this placement can become abusive themselves. Two, if they don't take care and do the work on themselves. Pluto, hidden in the privacy of the fourth house, makes this side of the person invisible to the world. Only your family members and close friends know what is going on behind the scenes. So now, domestic violence. When it comes down to domestic violence, this can be present in your own home as an adult. If you are not abusive to yourself, it can happen that you start a family with a person who is, or there is some other person living with you who is manipulative and controlling or even violent. So these men and women need to take caution when you are dealing with this placement, because they can get in partnerships, get in relationships that are very abusive, verbally abusive, mentally abusive, physically abusive. Their partners can be very violent, or they can be the violent one because of things that went on that took place in their fucking life. Now, in the birth chart, the house of Pluto shows where you seek power, where you want authority. A natal Pluto in the fourth house indicates that the scene for power struggles is your home. So these men and women are going to have a hard time, a difficult time at home. The home front is a battlefield for these men and women, and it really is unfortunate, but it's okay because there's light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, they can transform this. We have Pluto involved. They can transform this into a greater light. We know this. Okay, so now with Pluto in the fourth house, when it's coming down to your roots, Pluto in the fourth house can indicate problems with your sense of belonging. Many people with this placement feel isolated from their family or people around them. People with this placement often don't like this heritage. They don't like their heritage, and this can happen. Um, Anybody that has Pluto inside of the fourth house, you can not like what you are made up of. Sometimes you dislike your genetic heritage. While other cases, there is some secret in the family that makes you feel isolated from them. Pluto in the fourth house people often have a hard time accepting themselves. Pluto here can indicate a deep need for psychotherapy or a relationship where you can learn to be safe and nurtured. The aspects of Pluto are important. With harmonious aspects, this works easier. The fourth house shows your home in a wider context. So, as your homeland, this placement suggests that you can be overly patriotic to the level of fascination. Pluto in the fourth house, men and women often become religious when they get older. Besides your childhood home, the fourth house also describes your last years. Pluto in the fourth house can suggest an old age spent alone. You often isolate yourself with older people, or family members can leave you. Okay, so you gotta take some caution when you're dealing with this, because it does get tricky, very tricky. These men and women had to endure some serious things, and they're really trying to just really seek out the love. They want to be cared for. They want to be nurtured. They want people to understand them, love them for who they are, not for what they do, but who they are. Okay. Also, if you have your natal Pluto in the fourth house, you have come to a realization, okay, that you really have troubles in your family dynamic. This placement can suggest even abuse or violence at the home front. Pluto is really an easy planet in the natal birth chart, and your childhood circumstances weren't the best when you're dealing with this aspect, when you're dealing with this placement. Often this pattern repeats itself in the home and family you create as an adult. Power struggles are frequent with this placement, especially with one of your parents. These fights leave a deep wound in your heart, in your soul, in your mind. And the rage, okay, the rage is now built up inside these men and women, okay? And the rage often gets buried in your subconscious mind. However, it doesn't disappear. It stays there, subtly controlling your life from the background. Many Pluto in the fourth house men and women have some karmic heritage to work through. With this placement in the natal birth chart, deep transformation is needed before you can create a loving and supportive family atmosphere. Keep this in mind. So, we are dealing with karmic situations here, karmic heritage, okay, that is being placed upon these men and women's lives. In order for them to come into who they are, and they're going to have to go through a serious deep transformation. This is what's needed. Okay, once they get to that deep transformation, this is exactly when they will be able to create a more loving, supportive family atmosphere. Okay, this is all I'm going to say about this placement for now. In future videos to come, I will be going more into depth into this placement. Please be sure to check out my online store. It is Grimy Gear at www.grimygear.com. If you need a caterer, be sure to hit me up. I am the chef goddess also at Supreme Royale Catering at gmail.com. If you need a chart, Synastry chart. Synastry chart is $90 for 2 hours. Natal birth chart is $70 for 2 hours. And tarot card readings are $50. Any other information that you need will be in the About section on the YouTube channel. If you need a video, okay, I have a playlist set up and you can click on the videos that I have already done. So this is a force of nature, spiritual awakening. Love is love. Peace and blessings to you all. And I will see you on the next one.